What's up, everybody? Callan Yomura here from insaga.com, and I have the Ontario Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca, with me to talk about everything that's going on in Ontario right now. So, Doug Ford came out yesterday after 21 months of the pandemic and came out with the kind of same restrictions as he did in 2020 and 2021. Are the only ways to get back to normal with restrictions? And if so, if that's not so, how would you have done things differently?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back on, and Happy New Year under tough circumstances for all of us. I don't know that restrictions are the only way to deal with COVID-19. In fact, I don't think they really are. I think that what's required is that leaders understand their responsibilities, and that leaders understand that one of their key jobs is to always plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. And so on an ongoing basis, as tough as it might sound, making the proper effort and the proper investments to make sure that the population remains safe. So I'm talking about what I called for months ago, for example, on schools, where I requested or I urged Doug Ford, let's shrink our class sizes. Let's have a better plan for air ventilation in our kids' schools. Let's make sure that when vaccines are deemed safe and effective for younger kids, there's a real plan using schools as hubs to roll those out. Let's improve the masking situation in the schools. Again, I called for this not last week and not in December, but in September, in October, in November, and Doug Ford didn't do it. So I'm just using one example of the kinds of things I believe a leader should be doing during a crisis in an ongoing way to avoid being stuck in a really tough situation, because now Doug Ford is scrambling and we all have to pay the price.
Sure. Yesterday, obviously, he came out with the new restrictions, and I've had dozens and dozens of restaurateurs reach out to me and saying, how is this fair? Close indoor dining, but, and close gyms, but weddings and religious services are allowed to have 50%. How does that make any sense?
Well, you know what? They are correct to be concerned about how incoherent and nonsensical the plan is. So let's just go back a couple of days or a couple of weeks when they announced the first version of these restrictions. They had said to us that we could only have 10 people indoors in our homes to celebrate the holidays, for example, but you could still have close to 10,000 people going to Scotiabank Arena to watch a Raptors game or a Leafs game. So it's pretty much the same principle. Think back earlier in the pandemic, Doug Ford said to small business owners on main streets and elsewhere across Ontario, you've got to close your doors, but I'm going to leave big box retailers open, even though so many more people congregate in those big box stores. So all the way through this pandemic, there's been inconsistency, really poor and confusing messaging, and an incoherent approach. I don't blame your friends who own restaurants for feeling totally discouraged or dejected at this point in time. They should be, because Doug Ford's just done an abysmal job of providing the support and the leadership that we all need right now.
Now, do you think the financial supports are adequate for the industries that have been hit the hardest?
No, I don't. And in fact, very early on, I called on the government to introduce a third round of the small business grant. They took a very, very long time to talk about extending those kind of benefits. And then we saw during the most recent Auditor General's report that there were thousands of businesses that really, well, tens of thousands of businesses that really needed the help and the financial support. But this government, because they ran the program so badly, they ended up providing hundreds of millions of dollars to businesses that should not have qualified because they didn't take on the same kind of losses that perhaps your friends who own restaurants did. So this is a government, again, that it doesn't seem to be able to know, the old saying, right? Like, it couldn't organize its way out of a wet paper bag, is the old saying from when I was a kid. And it just feels to me like they don't have a real sense of how to do this stuff and to do it in a competent way. People don't expect perfection. They just want basic, responsible competence. And we don't get that from Doug Ford. We haven't now for quite some time, maybe not ever.
Let's talk about schools. You've been calling on more COVID-19 measures at school since the holiday break. Do you think Monday's announcement has gone, far enough for them?
Well, I think Monday's announcement, as difficult as it was for all of us to hear, and you've heard me say this before, I've got kids in the system, daughter in grade 9, daughter in grade 5. As difficult as it was for parents to hear, What comes next is the most important part. If Doug Ford simply closes the schools to in-person learning and does nothing else over the next couple of weeks, then he will have failed us again. He needs to take the time that he's now given himself and given the school boards to make sure that we are improving the situation with masks, both for students and for staff. So N95s are equivalents, HEPA filters in every classroom across the province, not just a few here and there. I still think that they should be shrinking class sizes. That's a lot of work that's required to do that, but that is something they can start right now. Using our schools as vaccine hubs for kids who are under the age of 12, because the uptake in vaccines for our youngest are still a little bit low for my liking. So there's a series of things they should be doing right now. My concern is that they're going to waste these 2 weeks, just close the schools physically and not make the effort or the investment to position our kids for success on the other side. And I'm scared of that, or I'm fearful of that, because that's what Doug Ford's done consistently. When schools have been closed, he's not made the effort and he's not made the investment to get it right. But this is his chance to do so.
Do you think he's doing that now? I mean,
I don't.
No.
Yesterday's press conference, when they were asked about it, none of them had any answers for what other measures they will introduce over the next couple of weeks to put us into a stronger shape. So I have no confidence that they will do it, even though I'm calling for it. Other opposition politicians are calling for it. Health officials are calling for it. School advocates are calling for it. I am really, really nervous. I don't think they're going to do it. Individual school boards might take leadership roles, which is good, but what we really need is someone at the very top who understands how to get this stuff done, and Doug Ford is not that person.
We're going to change gears a little bit. Dr. Michael Warner tweeted, the ICU numbers are incorrect. The province is reporting 20, yesterday in his tweet, he said the province is reporting 23. He said it was 40. Is this just, a miscommunication, or is somebody lying to us in regards to the ICU?
I'm sorry to say I don't know enough about what's behind Dr. Warner's tweet. I'm not saying he's wrong. He could very well be right. I just don't know enough about the situation. I think the larger issue, though, is this whole notion of how much faith do people in Ontario have left in Doug Ford? And I think that number was, it was already low before this latest round of restrictions and his brutally bad messaging or communications from yesterday. But I think it's gotten a lot worse. I think there are very few people who have real confidence in his ability to get us through this pandemic and out to the other side for the recovery that we all so badly want and need.
We talked about the election is 4 or 5 months away. I think it's June, right?
Yeah, June 2nd.
Yep. So, and the NDP and the Conservatives took out kind of personal attack ads on you. How do you think? What do you think of those? And did that actually help you?
Well, I think that I thought it was really interesting that they both used the same line of attack against me, like literally the exact same line was used in both of their ads. So I think that they probably lose marks for creativity there. I will say, I think the millions that both of those parties spent to blast my image and my name all over Ontario. Yes, they tried to do it in a negative way. I actually think on balance, it helped raise people's awareness of who I am. And I think, look, when both of your primary opponents are attacking you, it tells everyone who they're nervous about. It tells everyone that they're more focused on crass partisan politics rather than trying to rebuild Ontario on the other side of COVID-19. So they're going to focus on me. I'm not surprised about that, but I'm going to focus on the nearly 15 million people who call our province home, because they need real leadership right now, and that's what I'm hoping to offer.
So I'm going to be brutally honest. I've obviously I know who you are. My entire team knows who you are. Sure. But I go around and I go, when I was allowed at gyms, I talked to them and I said I'm interviewing Stephen Del Duca. Half of them didn't know who you were. Sure. Right. Yeah. And half of them, I think he's the Ontario Liberal leader. Right. So how do you raise your profile by June?
Well, I don't think I raised my profile. I don't think of your representative sample, I don't think 100% will know me by June. And I think that's just let's call it the way opposition politics works at the provincial level in Ontario. I mean, Doug Ford was a very well-known quantity. His family's been around politics for some time. Obviously, his brother Rob was mayor of Toronto. So there's a fairly strong awareness of him and his brand. Andrea Horwath has been leader of her party for 12 years. This will be her fourth election campaign that she'll be leading her party through. I became leader of our party about a week before the first lockdown. So, you know, it's been a struggle. There's no doubt about that. But I'm quite certain, based on the ideas that I'll be putting forward, based on the team that I have assembled to run as candidates in Peel Region and elsewhere, and based on the fact that I have a fairly recognizable haircut, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I think by the end of this campaign, most Ontarians will know who I am, what I stand for, and who I'm fighting for. And I think that's a good thing, because I'm quite comfortable with what that will show the people of Ontario about why I am the best person to lead this province.
Are you running to win in June, or running to become an official opposition?
Oh, no, I'm running to win, but not simply so I can say my stats look good because I won an election. I'm running to win because we have so much work that needs to be done in Ontario. Hopefully by June, we'll truly be on the other side of COVID-19. And then I think about the rebuild in our public healthcare system, in our publicly funded education system, in an economy that truly works for all of us. There are so many big decisions that the next premier of this province needs to have the competence and the capacity to lead on. I'm running to win so I can do that work. That's why I've come back to politics. That's why I'm running to lead this province.
Awesome. Mr. Del Duca, thank you so much. And we'll chat again, hopefully next month.
Sounds great. Thank you. Take care and stay safe.
Thanks.